What happens when an organization puts all their chips on the table for one player, only to have that player hold them hostage at the negotiating table? The Chicago Bulls are living through the most uncomfortable game of poker in recent NBA memory, and Josh Giddey is sitting across from them with what might be the ultimate bluff. With training camps looming and the season rapidly approaching, this contract standoff has transformed from routine business into a high-stakes psychological warfare that could define both parties' futures. The Bulls traded away a proven veteran in Alex Caruso specifically to acquire Giddey, and now they're discovering that getting your target and keeping your target are two entirely different challenges. To understand the current predicament, we need to rewind to the decision that created this entire situation. Chicago made a bold move by trading Alex Caruso straight up for Josh Giddey, despite having multiple offers from various teams over the years that included multiple first-round picks for Caruso. That's not just a significant investment, it's a declaration of organizational philosophy that has now backed them into a corner. Jake Fisher perfectly captured the Bulls' dilemma in his recent reporting. They traded Alex Caruso straight up for Josh Giddey when they had offers from various teams over the years for multiple first-round picks for Alex Caruso. That's how much they value Josh Giddey. They see him as a major focal point of their roster moving forward. This context makes Giddey's current leverage even more powerful. The Bulls didn't just acquire him. They specifically chose him over potentially more valuable assets, creating a situation where losing him now would be organizational malpractice. Chicago essentially painted themselves into a corner by making Giddey the centerpiece of their future plans. Giddey's ultimate weapon in these negotiations is the qualifying offer, and both sides know it. As Fisher explained, will Giddey sign the qualifying offer? That is his threat. That is his leverage right now over the Chicago Bulls. This isn't just negotiation tactics, it's the kind of high-stakes brinksmanship that can destroy relationships and derail seasons. The qualifying offer represents a one-year commitment that would allow Giddey to hit unrestricted free agency next summer, potentially leaving Chicago with nothing to show for their Alex Caruso investment. For a team that specifically traded proven assets to acquire him, watching Giddey walk away after one season would be catastrophic roster management. But here's where the psychology gets interesting. Is Giddey actually willing to bet on himself for just 1 year? Or is this elaborate theater designed to extract maximum value from a Bulls organization that can't afford to lose him? The answer to that question will determine how this saga ultimately resolves. The Bulls have made their stance crystal clear to anyone willing to listen. As Fisher reported, Chicago doesn't want to lose Josh Giddey at all. They've been telling other teams, they've been telling agents since the Combine that they are not interested in having any discussion whatsoever with Josh Giddey. They value Josh Giddey. This public declaration serves multiple purposes. It shows Giddey that Chicago is committed to keeping him. It discourages other teams from pursuing sign-and-trade scenarios, and it demonstrates organizational resolve during what could be perceived as weakness. However, it also eliminates any leverage the Bulls might have had by exploring alternative options. The organization's refusal to engage in sign-and-trade discussions isn't just stubbornness, it's strategic positioning based on their investment in Giddey as a cornerstone player. They're essentially saying they'd rather pay him what he wants than lose him entirely, which puts them in an incredibly vulnerable negotiating position. One of the most interesting aspects of this saga has been the persistent rumors linking Giddey to the Golden State Warriors in potential sign-and-trade scenarios involving Jonathan Kuminga. However, ClutchPoint's Brett Siegel has thoroughly debunked these connections, revealing them to be more about leverage creation than legitimate trade possibilities. Although interest from other teams may exist, the Warriors are not actively pursuing Giddey this offseason. Team sources from both organizations confirmed, Siegel reported. The Bulls have not held sign-and-trade talks with the Dubs regarding Giddey and Kuminga, a scenario that would be very difficult for both teams to solve financially. This revelation exposes the sophisticated game being played behind the scenes. The Warriors' rumors weren't based on genuine interest. They were strategic leaks designed to create urgency and increase Giddey's market value in negotiations with Chicago. It's a classic negotiation tactic that demonstrates the complexity of modern NBA business dealings. Siegel's reporting reveals the true nature of these external rumors. When asking around over the weekend and trying to connect the dots between the Bulls and Warriors, front office personnel and rival agents all came to the same conclusion. This is a means of Giddey's side trying to increase the price one last time, rather than there being legitimate movement on something outside of Chicago. This insight into the negotiation process shows just how calculated these public narratives can be. Giddey's representation isn't just negotiating with Chicago, they're manufacturing leverage by creating the impression of external interest. It's a sophisticated strategy that forces the Bulls to compete against phantom offers while having no realistic alternatives. The Bulls understand this game, but find themselves powerless to counter it effectively. They can't call Giddey's bluff because the consequences of being wrong are too severe for an organization that has already committed so heavily to him as their future centerpiece. The underlying tension in these negotiations stems from a fundamental mismatch between what Giddey believes he's worth and what the Bulls are willing to pay. While specific numbers haven't been disclosed, the extended timeline suggests a significant gap between expectations and offers. For Chicago, overpaying Giddey could hamstring their salary cap flexibility for years, limiting their ability to build around him effectively. However, losing him entirely would represent a complete failure of their strategic planning and asset management. They're essentially trapped between financial prudence and organizational necessity. Giddey, meanwhile, is trying to maximize his earnings during what might be his only opportunity to secure a substantial long-term contract. His performance at the end of last season demonstrated his potential, but inconsistency throughout his career creates questions about his true market value. This negotiation represents far more than just one player's contract. It's a referendum on Chicago's front office decision-making and strategic vision. The Bulls made Giddey the centerpiece of their future plans by trading away proven talent to acquire him. Failing to retain him would call into question every aspect of their organizational competence. The pressure on Chicago's management is enormous because this situation was entirely self-created. They chose to pursue Giddey over other available options, they chose to trade Caruso for him specifically, and they chose to make him central to their long-term plans. Every one of those decisions now looks questionable if they can't successfully retain him. Giddey's leverage in these negotiations is built on his strong finish to last season, which validated Chicago's faith in his potential. However, that same performance also raises the stakes for his next contract. If he signs a substantial deal and fails to maintain that level of play, both parties could end up regretting the agreement. The Bulls are essentially betting that Giddey's late-season surge represents his true capability rather than an aberration. It's a significant gamble for an organization that can't afford to be wrong about their cornerstone players. Giddey, meanwhile, is betting that his potential is worth more than his track record, which creates inherent risk for whichever team commits to him long-term. Despite the prolonged negotiations and public posturing, industry insiders expect this situation to resolve relatively soon. The approaching season creates natural urgency for both parties, and neither side benefits from extended uncertainty. Training camps and preseason preparation require roster clarity that this ongoing saga prevents. The Bulls need Giddey integrated into their system and developing chemistry with teammates, while Giddey needs the security of a long-term deal and the ability to focus entirely on basketball rather than contract negotiations. These mutual needs should eventually override the tactical maneuvering and lead to a compromise agreement. This contract standoff illuminates broader trends in NBA player empowerment and negotiation tactics. Giddey's ability to create leverage through strategic rumors and the qualifying offer threat demonstrates how modern players can maximize their earning potential even when dealing with determined organizations. For the Bulls, this situation serves as a cautionary tale about the risks of making players central to your plans before securing them long-term. Their heavy investment in Giddey created exactly the kind of leverage imbalance that savvy agents exploit during negotiations. The resolution of this saga will influence how other teams approach similar situations and how players' representatives craft negotiation strategies in the future. Do you think Giddey is right to push for maximum value, or should he take Chicago's offer and focus on proving himself on the court? This standoff is fascinating from a business perspective. Let me know in the comments whether you think the Bulls made a mistake by backing themselves into this corner, and hit that like button if you want to see how this high-stakes poker game finally ends.